So recording is started. Also, for this session, I can recall. Do you want to do 1 hour or 2 hours for this?
We can do the 2 hours just
All
to
right,
get the rest of the lesson in.
sounds good.
Enemy sighted.
Get back in the fight.
All right, so do we go over the importance of kind of ability usage on Ana last time?
We did it on Brigitte, and I've been
Yeah, very
trying
good. All
to
right.
push it over to Ana.
All right, so here at the very beginning, the big thing is that we just want to make sure we're looking for abilities at the very start of fights, especially. As you're going to notice here, we just focus a lot on healing when at the start of fights, healing isn't even really needed, right? We're going to notice here that we're just kind of chilling healing when this isn't even something
Enemy
that
sighted.
no one's taking damage yet, right? I mean, just watch, we're just healing up pretty much, full HP people, full HP, right? Not a whole lot done during that time period. So that's where we can be looking to use our abilities, right? And look to get aggressive with them.
The objective is now active. Heal up.
All right. So here we get into some positional issues. So um I'm trying to think of, do we go over everything at once? But so you have three check boxes you're trying to check off as Ana, and as only one of them's popped up so far, we're just gonna go over the first one, and then we'll go over the others if we need to. But the first checkbox is, can we see our team, right? If you are incapable of seeing your team, then that's a big problem on Ana because you need line of sight to be able to heal, and healing is a very basic function. So here, first off, we do not have line of sight on Genji. We do not have line of sight on Mercy. So we're trying to put ourselves in a position where we can see as many people as possible, right? So when we are shooting and we're coming in into point, where can we assume generally that our team might be going?
I see. They're going to be going around that corner. They're going to be going the square, and so I
Yep.
should be near that brush over there.
Yep. You should probably be more like where Torb is, right? That way we're able to, or even right here where Arissa is, right? That way we are able to see people when they do go to point, right? I don't know what's up with Ghost Baby there. Um, so that's the first big thing here with our positioning. Um, and then I guess uh, we'll say that for now. We'll keep going because I want to look at some more before we start going into big long rant stuff.
The objective is now active. Heal up.
All right, and then again we notice the exact same problem with when Orisa goes and Torb go into the room, right? Being over here in this area, now we're able to see everyone. Being back here, they walk out of our line of sight and we cannot heal them at all. Okay, again, we can't see Reinhardt, so just not in a position to be able to heal. So we want to make sure we're in a position to see as many teammates as possible.
So I run into. You've probably seen this happen to me twice now. Where what do you typically do when your team gets purpled as Ana? Because like that's generally when I like start to tunnel vision, like loot, like and basically just go like just kind of wait for them to get off purple. But I feel like that's the wrong way to react.
When they are purple, you're incapable of healing them, so therefore you can use that time to look for somebody else who needs healing, look for nades, look for sleeps, but healing them or waiting for them to be unpurpled is probably the worst thing we can do. If you don't know when they got purpled, or you know that it's coming to an end, then you can start healing them so that you heal them like the second that they're not purpled. But if you know that they literally just got purpled like a second ago, then you staring at them is wasted time. So anything else but staring at them is better than staring at them.
Makes sense.
All right.
Healing enough. It's just a scratch. You'll be fine.
All right. So I think we're gonna go on big long rant now. So essentially, on Ana, the biggest parts of your kit are your abilities, specifically your nade, but also your sleep is a big one here. Um, you are able to carry and do and get the most value if you are effectively using your abilities. As anti-nade, if you can get like a 6-man anti-nade off, that means that you can most of the time get more value than like a nano boost, for example, right? It's also on a cooldown. It's not a ability that it is an ability, right? It's not a super long cooldown ability, right? So we want to make sure that we're actively looking to use the first thing is we want to make sure we're actively looking to use it aggressively, right? Not just holding on to it. With our sleep, we've held that one we've held on to, and the nade we've misused. Sleep, make sure that you're just looking to use it as often as you can. The only time you're holding on to that is if you know that you might have a Doomfist on you. But for example, if like there were situations where we actively see like Doomfist is the only character that can get on top of us on their team comp, and we actively see Doomfist just like sitting in front of us on the front line. That's a situation where we know, okay, Doomfist isn't about to jump on us in a second here, so we can use sleep, right? Or if Doomfist is nanoed in front of us, we can use sleep, right? Now nade is a little bit more important than sleep, so we're gonna go over bigger ability. So I want to emphasize the importance of nade. Anti-nade is what you should be looking for almost any time you're looking for your nade, right? Not to say that you're never oh wow, that goes in between us somehow. I've never been in this position. What the heck? All right. What? I'm confused now. All right, sorry. So anti-nade, right? Well, where were we? We were talking about anti-nade, right? So anti-nade gets you a ton of value, and you should be looking to use it all the time. Okay, but you will use it for healing aid some of the time, right? So it's gonna be around a 40-60 split. You use healing aid whenever it's needed, and any other time you're using it for anti-nade, right? So like 60% of the time you're looking to use it for anti-nade, or not, sorry, not looking to use it, but 60% of the time you are going to use anti-nade, but you're always looking for it. And then if we see somebody who's in danger or we're in danger and they're low, right, then we can use nade to burst heal them, right? We use nade to heal them up really fast to get healing going. But that's not the biggest utility that it can get, right? When you throw a nade at enemies, that first off stops them from healing, right? Which is massive, makes the kills a lot easier, but it also locks them at HP, which is really important to think about, right? Because if they're both that low, then now we're locking them at really, really low HPs for 4 seconds, right? Which means that it's super easy to kill them when they're that low. The other thing to keep take into account is that a good offense can act as a good defense. When they are stuck at that HP, what are they going to try to do?
That makes sense.
Yeah, they're going to back off, play passive, right? If they play aggressive, then that's dumb, and then they feed, and then you win, right? Because you just kill them super easily. But if they play passive, that's a win. It's a win either way, and that means that there's less damage coming to your team, and that means that you don't have to heal less, right? So anti-nade does a whole lot, and we want to make sure we're looking for anti-nade aggressively. Now, we're just gonna go over the 3 check boxes of Ana positioning. We went over the first one already. Make sure you can see your team, but the other 2 we're just gonna go real quick because the third one talks about anti-nades. Number 2 is, can the enemy team see us? Okay, this one we've done a pretty good job of so far. But it's just if we're standing right here, right, the enemy team can shoot at us and snipe us and hit us. But if we're standing around a corner, now they can't, right? So this is what we want to be doing whenever we're healing, and then if we're looking for a nade, we just peek around the corner, right? Do that, and then we can duck back to heal, right? We did fine with that. The third one here is, can you effectively land a anti-nade specifically, and then sleep's also in there a tiny little bit. Okay. How you do that is pretty much a lot of it comes down to off angles, right? Or positions where you can land it. Okay. If the enemy team's standing there and our team's standing here, right? Instead of trying to throw a nade from the front line here, which means that we have to get it through 5 teammates, we have to get it through a shield, and then even if we get it through the shield, we're probably only likely to hit the main tank because they're just going to body block it from reaching people behind them. Right? We have a lot of obstacles to go through, right? But if we decided to go for something like this, now we got past our whole team, their shields, the main tank, and now we're getting it directly into the whole middle of their team, and then we just back off, right? So this is called an off angle, right? This is a short, safe flank angle, right? Where we can get here real quick on a different angle from the main angle. Okay, now we can do another one here, right? Enemy team standing there, our team standing here, right? We can back up while healing them, right? They're heal, heal, heal. Okay, now whenever we see no one's about to die, no one's in danger, we can take 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3, right? Now we're in a perfect angle. We got around their whole team, got around the shields, and we have a perfect angle to land a big fat nade in front, on top of their entire team. Right, so again, this is an off angle. It's very safe. If we need to, we're on a high ground, so high ground's positioning is very great. If we need to, we drop down to our team. They can't really get to us too easily, and we have this as cover usage, right? So really, really fantastic angle. Now, there is a difference between an off angle and a flank. A flank would be if we decided to go and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Took twice as long. Now, that means that our team's dying in the meantime, and then from here, we can't even see our team to heal them. And then, yes, we land the nade, but it also means that they just turn around and kill us, right? Because we're in a very terrible position, and we can't get away anywhere, right? So, there's a difference between an off angle and a flank. A flank is long and or dangerous, and a flank or an off angle, sorry, is short and or safe. All right.
Awesome. Yeah, that makes sense.
So looking back at positioning where we were at, we were Ilios.
Now arriving at Ilios. Ready for battle. Executing.
So you're going to notice that we just don't really go for many aggressive anti-nades. When we do, it's only hitting like one person. So this whole front start, like this whole time at the very beginning here, we're not looking for any nades. We're not looking for any sleeps, when this is where we should be looking for those aggressive anti-nades and sleeps. And you notice here that the enemy Ana does land aggressive anti-nades because you see half your team purpled, right, multiple times, right? The same thing isn't being reciprocated, which means now you see like how powerful it is, because you were just questioning, what do I do when we're anti-nated, right? So anti-nade is a powerful ability. We want to make sure we're utilizing it. So here we get 1 purple on the Doomfist. That's it. All right. Notice, watch the sleep cooldown, as we very rarely use it. Let's see, when do we use it? So we go for another nade on our team. We're just looking at the cooldowns here mainly, and then positioning again. We're outside. We can't see Reinhardt. If we were up here to begin with, this also puts us in a better position to land a nade, right? Because we have this left side gives us an off angle, right? If we want to, we can come left room and we can land a nade here. We can walk a little bit further left and land a nade here and then run away, right? We can peek main and chuck a nade if we wanted. Over here, how are we really going to get a nade off, right? Trying to chuck it down all the way down main where they can see it and eat it with the D.Va and block it with Reinhardt shield, right? It's just going to be a lot tougher to land the nade from here. So this position is just not as great as, being a little bit closer. Right. Now let's just keep watching the abilities. Right, chuck a nade, 1 single anti-nade. So we're hitting nades, but it's just there's a very big difference between hitting 1 person with an anti-nade and hitting 3, 4, 5, 6 people with an anti-nade. Right, there's a very massive difference in the amount of value you get. Right. Okay, sleep used once, but it is like a minute into the game. Right, just use that ability a lot more. Nade doesn't have. We don't have a problem with using it frequently. With nade we want with both of them we want quantity and quality. With sleep so far, I want to see more quantity. With nade, we're throwing them out often enough. We just want more quality with it. Okay. Now Doomfist gets nanoed here in a moment. Right. Let's see. Where is it? Again, okay, so we chuck in a nade that hits 1 person. Again, 1 single person within it. Okay, so now he gets nanoed, right? Not using a sleep. Right, this is where we should be using sleep, especially. Again, we hold on to it. Okay, we use it 2nd time. So we roughly, so we're 2 minutes in. How much time did we have at the beginning here? When did it actually start?
Ready for battle.
All right, so we did have like.
Ready for battle.
Okay, so the first 30 seconds were in spawn, right? So we're roughly one sleep every 45 seconds right now, right? Which on a 12-second cooldown. So we just want to make sure we're using that much more frequently. Alright, so now this is... I think we're getting close to where we were before. So now we have our ultimate. Let's take a look at what we do with that.
You're powered up. Get in there.
Okay, we pop it on our Reinhardt, so that is alright. What do we have? We have a... I always get confused with the colors, so we're actually red team here. Genji doesn't have blade, so yep, great nano here. Good timing. I like that we use it immediately after we get it, so, and he's also close to them, so perfect ultimate. Yeah.
I actually didn't expect that one to kill me when it happened. I thought if I was out of the circle, it would have been fine, but
Yeah, it was because you have an Echo Torb who shot you in the back, so that did like half damage to you.
Enemy
I
turret
see.
here. I wasn't cut out for retirement anyways. Heal up.
Right. There is a difference, just because I've seen this a couple times, so I'll mention it. We talked about how you want to use nade on people when you're in danger. There's a difference between being in danger and being low, and being down health, right? If somebody is critical, and that person is critical right here, are they in danger?
I see. Yeah, no.
Right. We can push this even further. If someone's critical and they're right here, are they in danger?
No, yeah,
Not really.
it's more
Right.
for like, are they getting mobbed?
Yep. Are they getting shot at? Are people looking at them? Are they low? You could have a Reinhardt standing out in the middle, out in the open here, who has a shield up, right, or has even 2 shields in front of him, who's critical but not in danger because he's not he hasn't had people on top of him and he's a shield available, right? So there's a difference between somebody being in danger and somebody being critical, right, or somebody being low. So we've had a few moments where we've just wasted nade because we've healed people necessarily. Leave healing on critical targets and healing on just people who need healing up to your primary fire and your other support, and save your nade for when it's actually necessary for anti purposes, and look for anti nades right actively. So here we just walk out of spawn, take 45 damage. We have Mercy in front of us. We're not nowhere near anything, and we have spawn door right next to us, and then we just chuck nade on the ground, right? So that means it's just unnecessary nade. Now it's not too important because we're gonna get it back, but it's also that we've seen it in the past as well. So I'll point them out if we see any more.
Awesome.
Right. We'll save it for next time we go into the training range, I guess. Just a little bit. Oh, whoops! I didn't mean to skip there. Just put intention behind your nades because it is, it's so far looking like one of the bigger things that we want to work on. So we just want to make sure we're putting a lot of attention and effort into them. Okay. Lot more very, very safe playing. Okay, good nade. Okay, we did kill him with that one. Good sleep. Okay, we're using it. Okay, good general mechanics so far. We are hitting a ton of shots. Make sure you're looking at her. Alright, make sure we're not standing next to the pit here. Alright, it's the easiest way to get booped off.
It's just a scratch. You'll be fine.
More orbs a bug there. Alright, we have our ult again. Let's see how we use this.
You're powered up. Get in there.
Alright, pretty decent ult so far. Okay, well he ends up dying anyways. So let's see this one more time. Honestly, I think this is alright. Does he have his hammer out? I think... No, he doesn't. He just ends up kind of getting rolled in there anyways. Saving someone with a charge. I think that's okay if it's a tank. I don't think that it's okay if you're doing that on a squishy target. when they're in a charge, because just look at, even though he's max HP, look at how much health he is after he gets charged, right? We can kind of track this, right? So we nano him, he's full HP with a little bit of shields, right? So he goes from having 250 with a nano boost now down to 100. So it takes 2 swings, 1, and then he just gets shot by Echo. So probably not worth it. Usually on a squishy, you can do that on a tank, and that's fine. But just the more you know, in the future, probably not a good play to try to go for.
Adaptive circuits engaged. Honor.
All right.
I'm not ready to hang it up.
Meteor strike.
I have it. Bedtime.
All right. So I guess we'll just save it for
Score.
if and when we go back. Actually, we'll just talk about it now so that I can show situations where it might be useful. All right, so it's just a real quick tech thing on Ana that we can go real quick. So when you're throwing long distance nades, typically you're not going to want to stay too far away from fights, but there are going to be instances where you find yourself at long ranges to medium ranges. Okay, in these instances, you want to use this tech so you can land nades a little bit easier. How it works is you want to make sure that you are scoped in. This does not work if you're unscoped. Okay, you're going to take your ultimate charge here, and you're going to line it up with an enemy, and that nade will hit them right from any height, any range that you're at. When you're more on even level with them, you want to aim towards the Q here, right? That way we can hit this at a distance,
This will
right?
only hurt for a minute.
So that's how we can land longer range nades accurately. So just make sure we're looking for that when people are super far away from us.
I had no idea.
Yeah, so there's like one instance where I just saw us chucking a nade. That's just how it's gonna be make it a little bit easier. Okay, moving on to round 2 here.
1.
I will keep
Okay,
you
again,
radiant.
when we are at a point where there's no healing really necessary, focus on something else. Abilities, DPSing, for example, here we could look to damage the Echo. Ball is down a whole 100 HP, right? He's not in too much danger here. So therefore, we can be looking to do something else with our time besides prioritizing the healing on him. But it's not too necessary here.
Alright.
Okay. Keep your ears and eyes open for them. You know that they're on a Doomfist, so make sure we're paying attention to our off angles and we're keeping our ears open and listening. So that's just awareness. When we know that they have a Doomfist, you can hold on to specifically your sleep. You can hold on to it a little bit more, but if you see that you don't want to make sure you're holding on to it all the time, right? If you Doomfist being like one of the main people who's going to be on top of you, right? If we see that Doomfist is in the front line, is not on top of you, or if you see that you have an opportunity to just sleep Doomfist when he comes in and on anybody, right? Then you sleep. If Doomfist is dead, you sleep. If you have any opportunity where where you're not sure, or where you're sure that Doomfist is not in the equation, just throw out your sleep. On top of that, nade you shouldn't need to hold on to too much. The only time you're holding on to a ton of abilities if they're like on a full dive. Here they do have a couple dive characters. They have Echo, Diva, Doom, but I probably say Doomfist is going to be really the main one on top of you most of the time. If they do end up all diving, like if you notice, like, yeah, they're all diving me over and over and over again, then you hold on to both of them because then they group up on top of you and that becomes a very easy nade to hit and then it keeps you alive longer, right? But in this instance, we have very rarely been dove. They're not really focusing us too much. And on top of that, we just, want to make sure we're using our abilities much more when we know they're not on top of us.
The objective is now active.
Adjusting angle attack.
Okay, a lot more healing people when they're full HP. Pay attention to health bars, right? This is more awareness so that you can see, okay, if these guys are full HP, we should be looking to do something else, right? So Zarya and Baptiste are both full, and we just kind of heal, right? Just over healing, not really doing much.
Name it.
Nice sleep, good nade. But we could have also potentially just waited a second longer, and then look what happens. Like a second after we use nade, is Ryan, Diva, and Echo are all on top of each other, right? That makes the nade easier. Or not easier. It's a better nade than the one we threw. All right, so just look for a bunch of enemies to group up before we're tossing our nade.
Take him out. It's just a scratch. You'll be fine. Go to
All right, nice sleep. We're using it a little bit more frequently now. Make sure we're reloading every opportunity we get. That way we have ammo for when we need it, right? So here, you know, we're not doing anything for a second or two, and we're just sitting at 1 ammo,
walk it off.
right? And that means that next time we go to shoot something, we have to reload, right? So you want to make sure you're reloading every time you have like a little bit of lull in time.
Okay, so if I've got this right, what I should have been doing through this is kind of going into the house to the right, or maybe even to the left, and trying to get that off angle on the grenade the whole time, because my team was basically topped.
So when it comes to that, so this is a little bit different of an instance. So the difference now is because they're on a little bit different of a comp, they're going to be a lot more spread out, and there's going to be a lot. 3 of their characters are divey, right? And when 3 of their characters are divey, they're going to be grouped up a lot less. And the times that they actually group up are when they run in on top of you. So we can actually be looking to save it a little bit more. But yeah, I'd probably say the best thing we could be looking to do is just peek right side. See, is anybody, like, we can heal, peek right side, anybody there? If there's nobody there, then we can just walk out here and land the nade if anybody's on point, right? If our team takes point, this is going to be the best positioning we could have, because we can land nades from the sides very easily. Actually, we can also do it from high ground here. High grounds from this point is also like just very good, because we can see almost everything, and our team and shields aren't really a factor, because if anybody's on point, we can just toss it over top, right? So either this right here or this right here would be ways that we can land nades aggressively. Instead we just kind of chilled right in this spot for the whole fight, right? Does that make sense? So, and essentially anywhere besides just standing still.
Got it. And the idea is look to lower their damage by putting them in those anti-nade situations.
Yep. Open up for kills, do damage to them, pressure them, and therefore they do less damage and can be less aggressive, which also is a space creator, opens up space for your team. Okay, just need a little bit more effort into it, right? Make sure you're intentionally trying to dodge out the shield. That means that we just think about, yeah, Reinhardt has a shield, and then when we know that Reinhardt has a shield, all we have to do is, instead of chucking it straight in, we wait until Reinhardt walks through, right? If we wait until Reinhardt walks through, let's see, oh, sorry, we go back to our angle here. We wait an extra second, and then now from the same exact angle, we could throw the nade in the same exact place and hit Moira, Echo, Ana, right? Throw nade in the same exact place and be hitting them just because we waited an extra second, right? Make sure we're intentionally trying to get around the abilities, right? I'm saying right a lot. I played Ana during the GOATS meta, right? During the meta that had the most abilities to counter nade. You had bubbles that canceled it. You had bubbles that blocked it. You had shield, Reinhardt shield. You had Diva who could eat it. You had Brig who could block it, right? And then you also had a Lucio who could beat it, right? You had the most things in the game that could block it out of any meta, right? And yet it was also the one of the times where nade did the most things, because they're all grouped up, and an anti-nade meant a 6-man anti-nade. So essentially, to get good then, you had to learn how to get through those abilities, right? You had to learn how to get around all of those things, to be to get it from a surprise angle where they couldn't, think about it. The off angles use, surprise tactics because the diva would be actively seeking you out. In this instance, there's a lot less to work with. You just need to make sure that you're thinking. They have diva, they have Reinhardt. We have to wait for diva. We have to watch out for diva. We have to make sure Reinhardt's not shielding it, right? Two things to make sure we're paying attention to the things that can block our nade, and we're attempting to get around it by waiting till he drops shield, waiting till somebody comes on top of us, throwing it around his shield, either above or around, right? Anything. We just need to make sure we're actively thinking about it.
So I understand Reinhardt's pretty simple to understand. Where it's
Yep.
is his shield broken or is he away from his team? Diva seems a little harder to predict. Did you have anything
Yeah.
you were looking for?
So diva, you have a few different things, right? You first off here in this instance, she's out of mech, right? If she's out of mech, if she's dead, you have if she's not looking at you, that's a big one, right? You have to pay attention to who is she looking at. If she's staring directly at you, then you're not gonna be able to get away with very much. But if she's looking away, you can get away with anything you want because she's not paying attention, right? How far away is she? She has a range, right? She has 10 meters on her defense matrix. If she's too far away from her teammates and you're aiming it at her teammates, then you get it on their teammates, right? You can wait for her timer to run out, right? She has a limited amount of defense matrix, and then when she places it down, I actually don't remember how long. I think it's either 1 or 2 seconds before she can put it back up. I think it might actually be 2 seconds. So if she drops her DM, you can chuck in a nade before she can put DM back up. So you can wait until she drops her defense matrix, right? That's the same. If diva, that's how you do it. If diva flies at you, right, with defense matrix up, don't shoot out immediately. You wait a couple seconds until she drops her defense matrix. Then you sleep her. Then you nade her. So that's how you can look to get around her. There's a lot of different things. You can also take off angles and places where she wouldn't expect you to come from, and then that's how you can, if she's actively seeking you out, that's how you can look to outsmart her.
Awesome.
All right.
Get here.
Okay, another nade, but just hitting 2 people. Keep in mind with your nades, you are looking to hit the feet in between people, not people directly. The reason why is 2 different reasons. First off, hitting people directly isn't going to be very easy to do, right? For example, if we try to hit McCree directly with a nade here, it's a tiny little box, so we have to try to hit with a projectile, and if it misses, it goes past him, it hits nothing. But at the same time, it also means that when we hit somebody, they activate it, right? And they block it from they block the distance, right? And now the distance is lessened because it's happening on their side of the body. Instead, what we want to be doing with their nades is we're hitting the floor in between as many people as we can get. So oftentimes we're trying to hit it on walls, especially floors, so that we can get it to spread to as many people as we can, because the radius is actually pretty large, but when you're hitting somebody directly, they negate a lot of that radius because we're not getting it in between people's feet.
Fire,
Okay.
you're powered up. Get in
Right.
there.
McCree, make sure paying attention to his ultimate. He doesn't have his ultimate, and therefore is a pretty poor target to try to nano. Most targets that are like characters in the game that require skill shots. So McCree, Soldier when he doesn't have his ultimate, and like Widowmaker, Ashe, right? Anything that requires you to aim and shoot, not going to be something you want to nano, because even at like top levels of play, it's just an inconsistent way to nano, and you want to nano something that just gets easier, more consistent value, right? So good example here would be Zarya, who's 85 energy, right? So this would be a very nuts nano, and she's actually going to be able to hit shots more consistently than McCree can hit shots. Now, McCree and Soldier are actually pretty good nano targets when they do have their ultimates, so that's where we get into nano priority. At the very beginning of the game, right? So back when we're in spawn, we want to make sure that we're paying attention to our team comp, and we go, okay, what's the best thing to nano? What's the second best thing to nano? What's the third best thing to nano? That way, if number 1 doesn't have their ult, or they're dead, or they're out of position, and we need a nano, we have number 2 to go to, and then number 3, therefore, right, for the same reason. And that means that we have a plan ahead of time rather than just relying on panic and doing it in the middle of thinking through all of this in the middle of the fight. We can do that before the game even starts. So, if you were to take a look at your team comp, what would be your kind of 1, 2, 3 priority list?
So that's interesting because I actually have two priorities when I'm doing nano. My first is save the team, and then the other is push essentially. So this was me trying to do a push nano, essentially.
Hmm.
And if I'm thinking about who's best, if maybe it's like soldier, if he ultimates at an off angle, then that's a priority target. Another would be maybe ball if he's getting focused down and going down pretty fast.
Mm. I'd probably say that most of the time you're going to prioritize the push one over the save one, but that's not to say that saving is bad. Most of the time when you're using saving, it's going to be on tanks as they get more out of the healing as well as more out of the damage reduction than a squishy target would, because when you have more health, that damage reduction applies to more health, right? And then when you have more health, you get healed up more health, right? Then a DPS can, or the other support can. But I'd probably say a nanovisor is much more powerful than just nanoing a ball who's low HP. I would probably also say that if we're nanoing a ball who's low HP, there's a good likelihood that he's not going to be swinging in about to slam when he's low HP. So therefore, that is probably going to be on him when he's going away, which means that now we've just wasted a ton of the value that you get out of Nano Boost, because now he's not getting you're not getting value out of damage reduction because he's outside of the fight, and you're not getting value out of the damage boost because he's outside of the fight and not damaging things. So most of the time, you're gonna want to prioritize the push. And then besides that, Nanovisor can probably, even if ball dies, Nanovisor can probably secure more than one kill most of the time. So that means that you would probably get value out of that, right? So in this instance, or I guess let's go with what you were saying. So we want 3 targets in mind here. So like, what would you put as 1, 2, 3?
So if I'm rethinking it, I would
Mm.
do soldier with ultimate as top. Zarya going in with high energy is second, and then it sounds like a McCree ult is the third, but I'm surprised about. My understanding is like I almost never see a McCree ult get value, but I'm guessing that might just be a ranking thing.
Yeah. So essentially, I would probably say the exact same thing. Yep. So you did perfectly there. McCreel probably would get a decent bit of value here. First off, it gets more value when they're a little bit more spread out because they're on a dive here. That's going to get a little bit more value. But they also have a diva, so the diva is the thing to watch out for. If he's McCree's a little bit easier to eat than a soldier is, because McCree has one single shot or like one single burst of shots, right? Where a soldier's going for a solid couple of seconds. So diva can eat McCree, but she can't really eat soldiers too well, right? So because they have a diva here, I would maybe put it more towards ball, but in any other composition, McCree would be really good because that increases the time, or sorry, it decreases the amount of time it takes for him to acquire a target, right? Because he has a charge up time with his ultimate. That means that it's basically going a lot faster, and therefore he's gonna be able to secure kills faster, and even break through shields faster, right? So Nano Hainu is actually a pretty decent ultimate. It's called Electric Cowboy when you're doing the term for it.
Nice.
So in this instance, it's up in the air. But
Would I be right in telling Zarya if she has high energy, hey, go engage, go run into the center? Basically, I'm gonna nano you.
yeah,
Okay.
that'd be pretty good. As long as she's not, as long as it's not a situation where it would be considered like her going in and is like feeding and suiciding, right? If you're just telling her to be more aggressive, then that's fine.
I have your back. وريهم قوتك. ده هيفيدك.
That was like, yeah, very much out of the sight line. And I run into that a lot where I feel like I'm trying to get their sight line and they're running the other way.
Yep. It's a lot about getting in their sightlines to start off, and in that instance, that's gonna happen. That wasn't really your fault. That's why I didn't comment on it. But it'd be more like trying to um stay in their sightlines. So maybe rather than running all around this way, we could have maybe just backed up and kept shooting at them from here or backed up to make them think we rotated this. If we had people chasing us, we could make them think we're rotating this way and then keep coming back, right? That's something we can try. But then the other basically once you're on the wrong side, like if you're doing that footsie thing where they're on the other side and you're trying to get to each other, that's fine. It's not there's nothing you can really do about that. Just try to don't essentially when it comes to that, and if you have somebody like if you're doing this like this side and this side, right? Don't hesitate with the direction you're going with. Pick a direction, and that will make it easier for them. If you go right and then you go left and then you go right and then you go left, that's you adding on to the problem and making them confused because now the enemy, the Genji over here is going, which side they trying to go on, right?
Yeah.
So what we can do to prevent that is just pick left side, and then Genji sees, oh, we're going left. Okay, let's go meet them. Or pick right side, and they say, okay, let's go right. Let's meet them, right? So you need to make sure that you settle on a direction if you're just going back and forth. But in that instance, it was fine. Wasn't any problem. Don't use nade on yourself if you have a Baptiste right next to you, right? Another danger thing. Are you in danger or are you just low?
Tactical visor activated.
Right, so we ignore Reinhardt when he's standing on top of us, right? Make sure you're paying attention. Reinhardt charges in here. We could potentially save McCree for paying attention to him. He also swings on us until we die here, and we have sleep and we have nade, and we don't use either. Right, and then on top of that, that's pretty much it. We just ignore Reinhardt and then we die.
I've got you in my sight.
Coming at you.
I've come back from worse.
Meteor strike.
Okay, and with all these games, you said last time, hey, focus on one thing and try and do that. My only goal in these games has been know how many they have versus how many we have. So I've been calling out like 5v6, 5v5, etc. Yeah, I mean, basically, and what I'm thinking is just like if there's a 2 deficit, run out is the idea.
Yeah, well, it's not every time there's a 2 deficit, and I'll elaborate on that. But honestly, it's working so far because I haven't seen too many problems with it. And that's why I haven't been commenting on it because like the awareness in the team fight instance isn't actually too low, and that's I haven't brought it up at all because of that. So really really good on that end. But it's not always going to be 2, right? When I was talking about all of that last time, I would have said 1 to 2 and 2 to 3 is advantage versus win and disadvantage versus loss. The reason why the 2 is the middleman, it goes for both of them, 1, 2, 2, 3, is because there's a lot of other stuff that goes into whether or not you're winning or losing, not just who has more people. You have who has closer spawns, which team is lower HP, which team is using more ultimates, which team has more ultimates, which team is in better positioning, right? There's a whole lot of stuff that goes into whether or not you're winning or losing, not just the amount of players that you have, though players is a very humongous one. That's why I tell you to pay attention to it, and that's why it's been working so far this game, is because of the fact that players is a humongous one, but there are a lot of other factors. So it's not always 2. So just be careful of that because 2 can be very winnable. If we are down 2 people and we have 4 ultimates, that's winnable. If we are down 2 people and their entire team is 1 HP, that is winnable. If we are down 2 people but we have fantastic positioning and they're like half HP, well, it's still winnable, right? So we have to pay attention to that. On top of that, on defense, a lot of the times we don't have to back up. So, like for example, if let's say, defense on payloads is a little bit different, but defense on a actually let me think of how to word this. I probably say that's I'm trying to think. I would probably say that on no, I'm not even going to mention that. Never mind. I take back what I was gonna say.
No worries.
So
Yeah, I
just
think
about it.
defense on capture points. The idea is that like don't try and fight on the point. Try and set up where you want the fight to be, and then if they roll you back there, that's fine. But
Yeah.
the idea is to like take the advantage while you can.
Mhm. All right.
This will heal.
I think that's a good spot that I'm on right now because it feels so exposed.
Why is it a good spot? All right. So up here we check off 2 of the boxes, right? The only box. So from here we can land fantastic nades, and we can see our whole team. You're always looking to check off as many boxes as you can. And distance also is another thing that can sometimes be benefit of you. Here we're pretty far away, so if we take a look at their team comp, Doomfist can't shoot at us from here. Reinhardt can't shoot at us from here. Mario can only shoot us a little bit. Diva can fly at us, and then McCree and Ana are really the only things that can actually contest us, right? On top of that, high ground, all we have to do is just back off, and we're like, back off a little bit, add in a crouch, and now we're outside of LOS. So there's a decent bit of cover here, but we also check off 2 check boxes. Essentially, your positioning gets worse and worse the less check boxes you have, right? You're not always going to be able to get all 3. That's not realistic. You're never going to have all 3. No, sorry, not never. You're not always going to have all 3. Is what I meant to say. But if you have 1, that's probably really bad positioning. If you have 2, that's pretty okay positioning. If you have 3, that's really good positioning. So in this instance, this is pretty okay positioning because you have 2 check boxes. Over here, this is probably really good positioning because you check off all 3. But the other thing is, over here you are also at a pretty dangerous. It's also can be dangerous depending on if there's someone over here. Like for example, if they have a Doomfist roaming over here, they have a Diva, McCree contesting this bridge right over here, then that means that being over here might actually be safer because we can't go over here if they're contesting it. So this is a good alternative or good option.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay. Okay, good attempt at the anti-nade. That's a range where you can look to line it up real quick if you want. The other thing is when you're throwing nade, you're not throwing nade with the hopes that your nade catches everyone, or your nade groups them up. You're throwing your nade when they do group up, or when you see them group up and they're close to each other. So when they're a little bit separated here, we don't want to be throwing nade because then that ends up hitting one single person, right? We want to make sure that we're waiting a couple seconds and looking and watching for when they group up, because if we threw a nade, right now in there, if we got it real centered there, we'd probably hit all 3 people there, right? So we want to make sure we're throwing it when they're grouped up on top of each other and they're not split, because again, there's a big difference between hitting 1 person with an anti-nade and hitting 3 people with an anti-nade. Right? It's a lot more value.
Bad guys.
I will keep you healed.
Okay, again in this instance, okay, we know Doomfist is nowhere near us. Nobody else is really going to get on top of us, so we can just look to throw out sleep here. We're holding on to it a little too long. Look to use it.
Yeah, I
There you
noticed
go.
that for sleep, I have maybe like a 10% hit rate, and then it turns into like a half-second stun most of the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which the
It's
stun.
like on that team, but
Yeah, your stun doesn't really have. That's not really your fault a lot of the times. As you get higher, you can call it out and say, "I slept this person to wake them up," right? Or I slept them 3, 2, 1. You can count down till the time you kill them. That way you can kind of time and kill them together. The other thing is just use it more often, and you'll be able to get used to using it. So far, I honestly like we when we've thrown it, we seem to have been hitting it most of the time. It's the same thing with our nade though, that we want to make sure that when we're struggling with it, that we're just putting a lot of attention and effort and intentional purpose with it, so that when we're throwing it, we're dodging out defense matrix, or dodging out shatter, we're tossing it straight at people. So you'll notice a lot when we throw out abilities, it's always an afterthought. When you're watching your gameplay, it's like heal, heal, heal. Oh yeah, I gotta sleep, and then we like turn and toss it in, right? So heal, heal, heal. Oh yeah, sleep, and we toss it in, right?
I understand.
It seems like we have like a half a second of setup time, whereas you want to be healing on essentially when it comes to a character like Ana, your heal is your default, but your abilities and especially your nade is what you're putting most of your brain power and attention into, right? You still need to be able to heal because healing is a basic fundamental part of your kit, but it shouldn't require your entire brain to process because it's not a very most of the time it's not going to be a very um you spamming out healing isn't going to be very what's the word I'm looking for, like draining, thought draining. It's not going to be something that's going to take a lot of effort. So we can put that mind power, brain power into looking for aggressive abilities.
Got it. Listen.
I'm taking the objective. Get over here.
Take your medicine.
All right.
Heal up.
All right. So we're at 8:30. We're gonna exit out of there and go over your scoping real quick. So we're not just to I can't recall. You're in silver, right? Or did you climb up to gold?
It's 2200.
2200. Nice. All right.
I've noticed that at that level, I'm now starting to lose games like hard.
Yeah. Well, you're getting used to new playstyles, right? And it's a new rank to play at, so you have to get used to it. And then once you get used to it, you'll be able to start, improving again, right? Every time you go up, you're gonna hit a plateau where now your skill level has matched the skill level of others. So you've reached that rank. You just gotta get over it. Now scoping here, right? Basically, don't worry too much. There's you technically have three types. You have your unscoped, you have your scoped, and then you have your quick scope. And we're not really going to go over quick scope because it's not too necessary and a little bit above the rank that we need, that we're at, and not you don't use it often. It's not something that's needed often. It just has some uses sometimes. But the big one we're going to go over here is go unscoped versus scoped. Unscoped, quite frankly, we just use too much. So we're gonna go over the advantages and disadvantages of both. Unscoped, you can have a lot of mobility and visibility. When you scope in, you are slowed down and you can see less, but it also means that you are zoomed in and you can therefore see better at a distance. It also means that you have an instant shot rather than a projectile, so again, you shoot better at a distance. And then you also get a slower sensitivity, so that means that you again are going to be able to aim more accurately at a distance. So essentially, your scoped is just better at a distance. So we're gonna go over the distance that you want to use it at, right? So from here to here on a squishy DPS or squishy teammate, right? So anything that is not a tank, that's what you just call squishy, is unscoped, right? Here to there, 10 meters. Anything past that is scoped in because we're just gonna get benefit out of all the things we were talking about, and it's just gonna be a little bit easier to hit shots, especially the further and further away you get. Right? It's not too bad if you are a little bit more lenient with this. Like it's if you're right here, it's not gonna be too much of a difference. But if you're trying to do unscoped from these ranges, which we are at some instances, that's where you're getting into trouble, right? Now, when you're on a tank, they have a bigger hitbox, so they're easier to hit. Now we're upping it just an extra 5 meters from here to there on a tank is going to be 15 meters. That's where we're unscoped. Anything past that is scoped in, so that we can get the buffs of your scope in. Right now, again, you can be a little bit lenient with it, but just make sure that you're not unscoping from too far away because for the most part, we're just unscoping from way too far away most of the time, and we're trying to go for these, and that's just going to be a little bit inaccurate. It's going to mean that you're missing more shots, and it's just going to help you with your mechanics if you're scoping in.
Awesome. So with scoping, if I'm scoped for more than like 3 seconds, I think that I'm losing visibility and like awareness of the map, and that's when I like take sector 360. Is that kind of how you approach it?
It really depends on what's happening, what team comps are you working with. If you know that they have flankers, then you just need to be aware of people that are around you. Yeah, I'd probably say it's good to stay to stay unscoped to attain visibility, but I don't think you need to put on a timer at all. It's more like once you're out. Sorry, my words aren't working right now. Sorry, I'm a little bit frazzled. Essentially, I wouldn't put a timer on it. Just try to stay as aware as you can while also being scoped in, because it's not like it completely shuts everything else out. You can still look around. But once people are full HP or high HP, once you're within range of people again, then you can look to get out of your scope, right? And then you just scope back in whenever somebody else needs healing. So anytime you're not just unscoping after 3 seconds, you're unscoping when people aren't in need of healing, and then you're unscoping so that you can see stuff. But for the most part, like, to be honest, you can see a decent amount around you even while you're scoped in. I don't think it's enough to where it limits your visibility by a ton. It's just enough, right? We can still look around with this and see what's happening, right? We just have less, right? So we can still glance right. We can still look up top here. It's just less, right? So, whenever we just want to heal them up real quick when they're full, then we can unscope and just look around, right? But we don't want to put a 3-second time limit on it, because then these guys need healing and we're just like, oh, time limit's up, right? And then we unscope and then we look around and then now we're missing shots.
Awesome. All right, so if you think it's useful, I have a couple matches going on. I have one from the moment I knew I plateaued, essentially, where we had a horrible loss on Ilios, and then I have one that was like very close that I just happened to disconnect at the end, but like it was like anybody's game.
Okay, I'd probably like to go over the anybody's game first, but we also do have. Do you want to finish this one, or would you want to go to the next one?
Do you think there's anything like? Is there? We can finish this one. There might be something else you see.
All right.
You're going to be okay.
Also, my offense is I'm generally not like I don't feel like I get a lot of value out of my offense right now because I miss, but
yeah. Okay, let's see how we use our ultimate here, because we do have a bunch of ults on board. Alright, use on Zarya, that's fine. But the thing to pay attention to is the fact that we also have 5 other ultimates, right? So, here, right, make sure you're pressing essentially on any character. You want to make sure, but it's especially important on Ana. Make sure that in between each fight, you're pressing tab so that you can take a look at, did they swap any characters? Did we swap any characters? And what ultimates do we have? We almost have 6, but we have like 5 point, and then we have a soldier who's almost there. What happens if we use 5 ultimates?
Well, we win that fight, but then we instantly lose the next, right?
Right, exactly, right. Which means that we probably want to be paying attention to that, right? We can call it out. This is something we can communicate with our team, is say, hey, instead of using 5 ults, let's use 2 ults or 2.5 ults, right? Here they are not 2.5, but we can put a condition on them. So for example, we can combo ultimates. We can say, okay, this fight, let's use Grav Mines, right? Pretty powerful combo. That means that now we're instead of them using it separately, which is currently being done, we can combo those ultimates and then get more value out of them. We can grab High Noon here as well. And then we can say, okay, I'll nano if we need it, right? So we're saying we're comboing, and then we're also putting a condition on our ultimate. So that means that we'll use it if we think we need it. So that way we can communicate and stop overholting from happening, because now we can stop us from using beat and visor and nano if we don't need it, and then we either the High Noon or the ball, and then now we've just held on to an extra 3-4 ultimates, right? In this instance, we all use it all at once. The other thing is that if you don't feel like communicating, just make sure you're paying attention, right? Because in this instance, we can just see, oh snap, team is using 3 ults, let's not ult, right? But we see, well, actually, we ult second, right? So that's honestly fine. That's now more of our team's fault. But if we communicate, then that stops it from happening. We ult second in this instance. But the other thing to keep in mind is that we could also just wait a second. Is if you see that we have everything and we're like, oh snap, team's probably gonna use a ton of ults here, don't use your ultimate. Just let them ult, and if they're not ulting, then you use your ultimate.
Take your money.
What do we use nade for? When we know that we have grab, make sure you're especially holding on to your nade unless it's absolutely needed or you see a perfect one, because this groups up everybody. In this instance, okay, we nade on soldier who's
You're powered
1
up.
HP,
Get
so I
in
guess
there.
that was alright. But that just means that we
Will.
missed out on this, where now they have I can't even see because they're all grouped up on top of each other. 3 people, right on top of each other. We could have potentially needed.
So that's interesting because is for me, I always think of an offensive Zarya is don't need because their Ryan's gonna block everything.
Yeah, well,
But you're saying if I go over them or something like that.
yeah, you could literally. What happens if you walk here? Is Reinhardt going to be able to swing on you?
Oh, I see. I see.
What happens if he swings on you? Right. Okay. Well, then now
Yeah.
he drops his shield and you get nade off, and you self heal. And on top of that, your entire team gets to shoot at them now. Okay, is Doomfist gonna be able to punch you? No, because he can't use any of his abilities right now. Right. He doesn't have any, and then on top of that, he can't use them while he's in grab. Right.
That makes sense.
McCree can't really see you through his whole team. So on top of that, we have beat, and then on top of that, we can also look for we don't always have to just run straight at them. Sometimes we could have a better angle to maybe go on an off angle, right? It doesn't always have, or it could be above them. It really is going to be situational. It's not going to be the same every time, and sometimes this is going to be a bad move. Maybe the grab is nowhere near you, and you're not going to be able to get a nade in, and going for it might kill you, right? It's everything in Overwatch is going to be situational, so just be careful about it. But most of the time, you have a grab, you're going to want to hold on to nade for it.
Awesome.
Take your money.
Okay, sleep. Not then. All right, look, like maybe a misclick.
No, that was what's the word you had where it was like last thought?
Yep. All right. Here, just kind of sitting on point, so positioning struggle a little bit. All right. Now let's see. We're coming back in. Get nade on one, and then Slow Slate. All right. So you can link me the other one now.
Awesome. So this one was like right after our one, so like obviously I was hopefully getting better as the week went on, but yeah.
All right.
One moment.
Oh, did you link me the? Oh no, you didn't. Okay. I went in. I was like, is he there? And then I went
Yeah,
and
I was
checked,
doing
and I saw the
important.
last one. I saw the last one and thought that I was the one who was being AFK.
Oh no worries.
Traveling to Havana.
This one it was
battle.
50-50 coin flip game. I disconnected in the last team fight. So,
Sucks.
yeah, it was rough. But Havana in general, I have so much trouble on. I think I tried to take high ground at the beginning of here, and this high ground never works for me.
Yeah. In this instance, there's no real fantastic off angles. This one on positioning is gonna be a little bit tough. We could take high ground, but when we're taking high ground, we probably want to be closer to the right side here, so that if we get contested, we can just drop super easily. This also means that we can heal our team super easily on the right side here. We can land nade through this window and just get above shields. We could also look to do it from bottom here and hug hug around here, and then we can use this right room as an off angle to get nades off of. As long as we just have to be kind of careful about it wherever we're going. But to be honest, yeah, you're right. There's no grade A positioning on this first point especially. So we just have to be careful whichever direction we're going, because it's just a very out in the open. It's a very wide open map, and that's why snipers are so great. But that also means that there's not a lot of cover for us to use here.
5, 4, 3, 2.
So right now, okay, so yeah, we go high ground.
Incoming.
So let's see, like Where we go? 4.
Stop
Yep.
the
So
payload.
problem is,
Yeah,
first off,
like,
we're yep. First off, we're peeking main here. Probably want to be closer to the right side. This gives us better angles on pretty much everybody on our team. And then it gives us better drop angles.
Die Fidak.
Unneeded nade, right? Everybody's full HP. Not necessary. Right, now we got into the predicament where we couldn't really see our team, and that was putting us in a situation where like we would have to peek onto the open to shoot at them, which put us in bad line of sight. So that was honestly, the drop is fine. Now we have a little bit better positioning. I'd probably be rotating like right side right now.
Go. I'll keep you here.
Now here you can really see the left clicking out in the open thing that we were talking about. How you're unscoping at a massive distance in between you guys. Like look how far away we are, and we're unscoping still. And it's not like we're losing much visibility here if we decide to scope in. Right, there's not really many flanks that people could be going on to get us from here. On top of that, pay attention to team comps at the very first thing we should be always looking at the very beginning of the game, because the team comps dictate playstyle. When they're on McCree Soldier, we don't really have to be worrying too much about our flank, not nearly as much about our flank angles, because it's not like they're gonna suddenly appear on top of us as much as a Tracer would or a Genji would. But Soldier, we still have to watch out for the flanks for.
Walk it off.
Okay, that's where we would benefit from the look up scope tech with the nade or that we were talking about before. Now we scope in. Look how out in the open we are. Right, I think I think we're identifying a few things that we talked about before, and honestly, you did a lot better with this in the other games. So I'm going to imagine you've improved on this by now. But just look how far in the open you are. You might want to be hugging the left side a little bit more so that you have some cover to work with.
I see you. You're going through.
Okay. Again, just no anti-nades, aggressive anti-nades happening, so we just lose out on a ton of value.
Healing stream engaged. Damage amplified. This is not the end.
Alright, now this is the problem that I think we're getting into now, and it might actually be better, now that I know that this is a game that came from a week ago, it might actually be better to go over the other one, because now I think we're making mistakes that we've actually gotten over, and I don't want to point out new mistakes that we've gotten over, because right now we're pushing in when it's a 3v3. Actually, you know what, I wasn't even paying attention to kill feed myself, so I don't know what I'm talking about. This is even.
But we don't have it. We're three squishies pushing into a tank, which is a different
Yeah.
issue.
So we're also out in the open. Us being out in the open here is the big thing, but I also didn't notice that we were up a bunch of people. So this is actually what you
I
say.
shouldn't be trying to take that point, even though I'm even if I'm the only one or two left, because it just
You
isn't
can
going to get value.
you can be aggressive here. That's fine. You just don't want to get next to Reinhardt. But us peeking here when we see that we're even, us peeking and shooting at them from a distance is completely fine. It's not the only person that can shoot us is Soldier. We just want to make sure we're not standing out in the open.
That's much better.
But I got that completely wrong there with how many people we had up.
Heroes never die.
Need to be intentional with the nades, intentional with the sleeps, right? Just put thought, effort into it. Make sure we're getting around trees, right? Make sure we're the first nade is caught on cart, sleep is caught on tree. Make sure we're trying to get it around all these obstacles in our way.
Get them off.
This will help. Heal up.
The payload has
All right.
reached the checkpoint.
We'll look for the other one right now.
Oh yeah, you're getting another one.
Mhm.
All right.
I'm not ready to hang it up.
So let's play on Anubis, where we basically just lost every possible thing.
You lost every possible. What do you say?
So we had a night. I probably played 5 games that night. Won 4, like hands down, no problem. And then this one, I just completely got rocked on.
Ready for battle. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming. Defend
All right.
objective A.
So there's a Junkrat sitting behind you.
Out there.
Yeah. So we said we were going to try a right push the first time to get high ground.
Die feeder. Patched up.
Right, so we have Ash being caught up at choke with the Junkrat. Sleep the Reinhardt. More effort into it. Make sure that we're using this instantly. Don't hesitate with it. If we see a Reinhardt charge in here, this is very easy sleep. When he's charging, he does not have. He's not able to put a shield up, and he's moving in a very straight line. So as soon as we see Reinhardt here, just fire off a sleep. Okay. With our nade here, we can. If we're looking to get an aggressive nade there, we just push in past our Orisa and chuck it at him. Most of the time, you're not gonna die if you get a little bit aggressive with your nade here. So for example, like when Reinhardt's back here, right, and if we're trying to nade him, okay, if we push into this room, okay, now that is Reinhardt and Zarya can shoot at us, right? When we nade, we're also healing ourselves, so that gives us a lot more survivability and can keep us alive. So looking for a nade here. Actually, we don't have nade yet, so now we can look for a nade. Right, so we can push into this room and chuck a nade in there, and we're probably unlikely to die. Right, only thing that can shoot at us is Ana, Zarya, and we can just peek in there and then back out instantaneously. Right, so just make sure we're looking to get aggressive with it a little bit. Okay, again, just every single nade that we're using is looking to use it for the healing, and therefore, we just get healing, and that also means that we never get the value that comes with nade. Right? This is how you carry on Ana, and we don't carry on Ana because we're not using our nade.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is that if I was peeking left for the off angle, that could also work really well.
If we peek to the left side here.
For the off angle, maybe that one, probably not.
This one is a little bit hard because you're you don't really have a great angle here because you're on the low ground. So this isn't that great of an off angle. A better one. It'd be more of a flank if we came all the way around top. But top here would be fantastic positioning if we could get if our team decided to go that direction. But for here we can just push in aggressively down main rather than trying to go for an off angle. Not really a great off angle here. Like I said, you're not always going to have all 3 checkboxes.
Yeah.
I wasn't cut out for retirement anyway.
Gonna make you feel better.
Die feeder. I have your back.
Okay, lagging behind a little bit with our tanks. Make sure we're pushing through with them. Right, we have a whole lot of time to react to that. I think Lucio booped. No, he either Lucio booped him or he's. Oh yeah, Lucio booped him here, right? Boop, and we just have a very delayed reaction to it, and we turn around very late. Make sure we're keeping our ears opening, watching for it, listening for it. After you're shattered, nothing you can do. Oh, stop! I didn't even skip there. Where were we? Where the heck were we at? We had our nano, so it's right here. All right. All right. So let's see what we do here with nano. But we don't have that many fantastic nano targets. Who would we be going for here? One, two, three nano targets.
This one's tough. Maybe the Zarya to just push through.
You don't have a Zarya. You're on
Oh,
red
sorry,
team.
I'm red. Yeah,
Red
yeah,
team.
yeah.
Yep.
Maybe. There's really no good ones, honestly. Ash, if she takes the top, maybe. Other than that, maybe Sigma as he's going through the bridge to reduce that damage.
Yep.
I
would probably go Ash again. Same reasons as last time. Skill shot hero, usually not going to be good, and you'd be better off going for a tank. Like if you're just going for a default skill shot character versus a tank, tanks get value out of the healing, the damage reduction, and they have more. Sigma has more, even though he is a skill shot with his shots, he will get a tiny bit more consistent value out of it. So here I probably go for Nano High Noon as number one. Because that just gets a ton of value, especially when they're just running a pretty slow comp like they're running. But then for number two, I'd probably go for Nano when Sigma's fluxing. When he's fluxing, he's able to hit his shots fairly easily, right? When they're in the air, because they can't move for two of his volleys, right? When they're in the air, they can't move. When they're on the ground, they can't move. On top of that, that allows him to get a little bit more aggressive and just Sigma as a tank gets value out of the ability, the damage reduction, right? And then number three, I would probably just put up in the air. Orissa's not that fantastic of a nano target, but she would be okay if you're using it for the damage reduction. If she's low HP to keep her alive, that's okay. But I probably look for the first two.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then Bob here would be okay, but they have a sleep for Bob, so only if Bob would on it. Sorry, Bob would be a situational usage. If Bob is in a good spot and they don't have sleep, then Nano Bob. Otherwise, don't Nano Bob.
Awesome. For this match, we never make it through the choke again, basically.
Alright, so they use Tire first. They use Sigma. Why was Sigma so far ahead of us? Oh, I'm skipping far back. Okay, so we're like right next to Sigma. Except for we hesitate and we keep backing up while Sigma pushes forwards. Make sure that when our tanks are going in, that we're going in with them, because otherwise they just end up going in on their own, right? Here we don't have line of sight on Sigma, and Sigma's probably basically now just getting left in the dust because he's not waiting on. First off, he's not waiting on Monkey, which isn't good. Make sure if you see that our Monkey's not here yet, say Sigma, wait, Monkey's not here yet, right? Communicate it. Then on top of that, just make sure that you're like, if Sigma is going in with players, that you're going in with him, because otherwise he just ends up dying. Right, because him and Lucio get really far ahead of us just because we lag behind so much. Then they use ults. Now we're just grouping up. Right. We swap Junkrat. Honestly, we swap so many characters here that ruins a bunch too, because now they're still at the ult advantage, right? They 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have 3. Right, so this isn't looking too good for us. But now we swapped up some teammates, so we actually can get a better nano targets here. What would the new improved nano priority list look like now?
Given that they don't, they got a Junkrat. So if the Tracer's going for the Junkrat, then Tracer seems like the top. But they're also very heavy tank, so I might even do the Junk. No, sorry, Winston's the best in that case.
Yep, Winston is now number 1. Tracer, usually, again, for the same reasons as Ash, same reasons as McCree, not a fantastic nano target because it requires skill shots and requires her to aim. On top of that, Tracer's just weird because when you nano her, it makes her shoot faster, which surprisingly actually makes it harder for her to hit shots because she has less time to track. But in general, Tracer's not going to be fantastic. Here, be Monkey number 1, Sigma with a Flux is number 2, and then probably for number 3, it would just be like if we absolutely needed number 3, it would just be situational, right? Junkrat and Tracer aren't great either, and Lucio's not good either. So it would be whatever is needed, whatever would be needed the most, and whoever's in the best position for number 3, because we don't actually have any good nanos, right? Anytime you don't have it, because sometimes you will have comps where you just have no good nanos at all. In that instance, you just nano whoever needs it the most and whoever's in the best position.
That makes sense. Yeah, I was wondering if it seems, Junkrat's not the right. That makes sense to me.
It's just skill. It's very inconsistent damage.
You're going to live. Heal up.
Unneeded nade. Okay, delay on the nano boost. Make sure that we're using nano at the very beginning of fights. Did we talk about why you want to use ultimates at the start of fights?
No, and I always used it in reaction to when they focus somebody. So
You want to use your ultimates at the start of fights. So an easy example, or comparison here is if we look at the enemy Ana, right? If Ana uses Nano before we use Nano, now the damage buff and everything, right? The damage reduction means that now they are getting damage in. They get picks. They get get an advantage, and they do damage, and that means that we have to play more passive, right? And therefore, their team is at an advantage. And if we use Nano afterwards, now Nano gets less value because if you second, we're already down people. We're already at a disadvantage, and therefore, let's say they get 2 picks with it. Now, if we get picks, they're worth less because we're already down people, and now instead of being up 2, we're just even, right? So whenever you're talking about any ultimate besides the defensive ultimate, such as loose beat or trance, you're wanting to use it at the very start of fights so that they get the most value, because when you hold on to it, they just get less value. On top of that, when you hold on to it till the middle of the fight, you have the potential to just straight up lose the fight before you get the chance to use Nano, and then that forces you to hold on to it, because of course you don't want to use Nano in a fight that you lost, but now you essentially lost a fight when you could have used Nano Boost, right? So Nano wants to be used at the start of fights. You don't want to wait until Monkey takes damage, because by that point, Nano's just lost a ton of its value that it could have had. To be honest, the healing that Nano does is a side factor, is a side advantage of the Nano. The primary two that you're looking at when it comes to Nano is the damage buff and the damage reduction. Healing is just a nice little side fact for it. Most of the time, you're not looking for just to save someone with the healing. That is a side function that you can look to use it for, and that's why it's also very good to nano tanks, but you don't want to hold. It'd be better if we nanoed Winston right as he leapt in here than nanoing him after he's critical HP. And in that case, he oftentimes you also notice that he probably is looking to like jump out as soon as he's low HP here. He stays in because he has beat, but he's critical HP. If he didn't have beat here, he would probably be immediately jumping out as soon as he, gets his leap, which means that now Nano Boost is jumping back towards us, right, and gets no value. So use your ultimate at the start of fights, not in the middle of them, not at the end of them, because they just do more.
got it. From a consistency angle, since what we're looking to do with Nano Boost is gets consistent damage, would it actually make sense to ulting Moira? Like while she's ulting?
Yes, Nano Cole is actually pretty decent. Now it's not. This is especially good in it's situational. It's especially good if they have a ton of shields, because it's gonna get more value because it's an ultimate that goes through shields, right? So if they have a ton of shields, then it's going to get more value than, let's say, for example, Nanovisor. Nanovisor gets less value the more shields and defensive abilities they have, right? Because that means that they can eat it. Same thing with High Noon, right? It's going to get less value if they have a ton of shields. Now, Coalescence gets more value when they have a bunch of shields, because it's one of the only abilities on your team that can go through all of them. On top of that, it's also going to get more value when they have nowhere to run, right? Same thing as High Noon. When they have nowhere to run, High Noon's fantastic because you have time to charge it up and they can't get out. When you have Coalescence, if they have nowhere to run, it gives your Moira time to burn them down, right? Whereas something like Nano Visor or Nano Blade doesn't really care per se if they don't have nowhere to run. It's better a little bit with Blade, but when it comes to Visor, he can aimbot anywhere from across the map, so he actually gets more value in comparison to other characters when they're all spread out, right? If everyone's spread out, then Nano Visor is going to be better than Nano Cole, because you can just hit everybody individually, whereas Cole, you want to have everybody lined up in a little ball, right? So, short answer, yes, in the right situations, but there are other ultimates that are better than it, so you just have to also pay attention to what is better, right? Nano Blade, Nano Visor would probably take priority over it. Nano Monkey probably say take priority over it because he can also go through shields and just that gets him his ultimate and he gets the tanking from it. So it's going to be very situational. Probably say Nano Reinhardt's better than Nano Cole because, again, tanking, health, and he can also swing through shields and get his charges ultimate off of it. So more buffs than Nanoing Cole would get. Okay. Not paying attention to kill feed. We've lost the fight by this point. Walking kind of through the open. Not using... Did we have nade to save ourselves? Not using nade to save yourself. And then using Nano very late in the fight. So just a bunch of things here. Also, Nano Tracer.
Oh, yeah. Awesome.
All right.
You're going to be okay. Heal up.
Okay. More intention. I think we're trying to save Reinhardt here, which is all right because we see that he's trapped. Another instance where we're not trying to throw it at people, we're trying to throw it at their feet. So here you notice that we chuck it straight at Reinhardt and he gets untrapped at the very last second and therefore nade soars past him. That is a result because we of the fact that we tried to hit him with it. Instead, hit his feet, and then now instead of sailing past him, it still hits him because it's in his general vicinity. So make sure we're aiming at feet with our nades, as well as put intention behind it. But to be honest, that was a good situation. I would say that was a good situation to look for the nade because he was trapped and he needed the burst healing. He was in danger there.
I still have use for you.
Okay. I like that we're using sleep in this instance. I was about to comment that we should look for it soon, but again, it's just like, it's an afterthought. We're not putting much effort into it. We turn the corner and just instantly sleep before we even see anything, right? Right, we kind of peek for half a second and sleep instantly, and we're not aiming at anything in particular. So make sure that we're putting thought and effort and most of our brain power into it.
Mm-hmm.
I said thought and effort, and then I was like, that's what I wanted to say. I don't have anything else to add. Why did I say something? Why did I say and?
So what I'm catching what I should be doing with sleep is I typically try and use it to choke off a point. I think somebody's gonna dive through this point and I'm gonna throw out the sleep and hope I catch them. But you're saying I should be like looking at somebody, tracking them, and trying to hit a specific target with the sleep.
Yeah, well, you can do either or. You wanna be launching it in the same way that you're using your nade. You also want to be using your sleep in an area where you're gonna have a kind of high traffic, if that makes sense. You want it to catch something, even if it misses the thing you're looking at. But you also want to be a little bit intentional and try to specifically hit a certain character because some characters are better to hit than others. Like if you, for example, if everybody on their team is standing in one little ball. Is it better to sleep the Mercy or is it better to sleep the Reinhardt?
Reinhardt would say, but
Yep, Reinhardt, because Mercy, yeah, Reinhardt can shield Mercy. Sorry, I can bubble Mercy. If Reinhardt's down and slept, then that means that your Ryan can charge him, you can bully him, and you can just shoot their whole team because they don't have their main tank, right? So there are specific targets that are better to sleep than other, and again, it's all very, very situational. It's all going to depend on what's happening and who you want to sleep and when you want to sleep. But yes, you want to be intentional with it on who you're sleeping still.
30 seconds remaining.
Like here, for example, we could, if we landed a sleep on the Zarya who's peeking there, that opens up for nice, it means our team can push her and kill her pretty easily here. That's a way that we can set up just an advantage. Little delayed pushing after our team. Make sure we're kind of on the, sorry, my words aren't working right now. Make sure we're on the same page. That's the word. Make sure on the phrase. Make sure we're on the same page as their team here, and we're pushing at the same time as them. On top of that, make sure we're not walking through the open. Go right side so that there is less of a time from here to here, where we're next to cover, than trying to walk all the way around here. Right. That way we're getting there faster. Okay. That way we're not dying. On top of that, I don't know if we talked about this much, but jumping, just not a good habit. Have we talked about jumping?
no, actually.
No? All right. Jumping, by far, this is not going to be the most important thing that we've talked about at all. It's very side thing. It's not really going to be too much of an issue until you get at higher ranks, because people start looking for it at higher ranks. But jumping is very easily trackable when you're just spam jumping, when you're just going jump, 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 jump. It means that a character like Ashe can headshot you very easily, because when you go up, you have to come down, and therefore it's a very trackable animation and it's predictable. So you don't want to jump, but it's, again, especially the lower ranks, it's not really, like, in comparison to nade usage, in comparison to sleep usage, ultimate usage, positioning, not very much of a big problem. Just something to think about. It's a bad habit to have. Try to get out of it, but it's not something to worry about.
10 seconds remaining.
My
Good
team
to know.
needs me.
Yep. You also just when you're in the air, you just lose control over your movement. You lose a lot of your ability to control where you're going.
Complete.
That can also just make it
Never.
difficult for you. Let's see. Okay, when did
That was the whole game basically an issue of us not doing the same thing at the same time, or
we didn't open up with we didn't ever open up with ability usage at all. Again, just more ability usage is like the way that we as Ana can have an impact is if, like, we come into the fight and hit 3 to 6 people with our nade, and now our team's like, oh snap, they're all purple, and they push in and they all die because they're all purple. That's how we can leave an impact. We can also sleep somebody out of position, and like the Zarya, who's pushed forwards, and catch her, and then now that's impact as well. So ability usage is a big one. We were also out of sync with our team again. Yes, like we said, which meant that we didn't. We kind of died there at the end because we were out of sync with our team. If we're walking with our Reinhardt, then that means that he shields us. If we're not walking with our Reinhardt, then he can't shield us. So make sure you're in sync with them. And on top of that, we also just had I think we only had one ultimate. We had poor usage with it. So those were the 3 main things. Out in the open positioning as well.
Attackers incoming.
The dragons.
Defend objective A.
I'll be
Enemies
watching
are
your back,
already.
but be
Okay,
careful.
I like that we're going for a nade. Just be intentional with it. Don't just chuck it in. Scope in to maybe this is more of a medium range, so you can look to scope in right here to line it up. And then on top of that, just make sure you're watching for when people are grouping up with each other. A really easy time to land this is when they're right around here. This is where they're all going to group up and walk through, and it's also going to be where they're all out in the open, right? When we're chucking it here, this is a blind. Oh, they're sonicked right now, so we can actually. When did they get sonicked? Could we see that they were sonicked?
sorry, what's this?
Sonicked is Hanzo's Sonic arrow.
Oh, okay.
So right now they're all
I'll
red,
be watching your
and we
back,
can
but be careful.
see that they're not there yet. I think we're maybe trying to hit Reinhardt. Know that this is way too far to the side to hit Reinhardt. You can see the distance here. Explosion radius so like right around there, right? Reinhardt's not in that explosion radius. Right? It's way too far to the side. So in any case, just poor nade. Need to look to position a little bit better, but now this would have been maybe a better nade when they're all grouping up, trying to walk through. So far, no problem with just basic healing. No real problem with it. Oh, didn't mean to skip there. Didn't mean to skip here. So we see he's on our Mercy. So that's a good attempt at the nade. I like it. Very nice sleep.
Get back in the fight.
Should just instead of running to your team, stay up here, right? Who's gonna contest you up here?
Who would be? I was worried about their Junkrat jumping up on me probably.
No. And then in that instance, we have sleep available, right? We have Sigma up here. We can go position with Sigma if we want, rather than rotating to our team. Rotating to our team is probably actually more dangerous because that means that we're having a lot of runtime around the open. And then on top of that, rotating to our team, the big thing here is basically we lose so much value that we could have had. If they're walking through main here, this is the easiest, the absolute easiest nade position that I've seen out of both games that we've been in. Look at how easy this nade is if we're positioned right here, right? me just get it behind their shield, get it on either both tanks or both supports, or maybe even if the supports group up a little bit more, we can land on all of them. Running back to our team means that now we don't have that position where we can, land that nade effectively. And then we also looks like, oh no, never mind, that's not a nade. I saw the purple trail and thought it was a nade for a second.
Oh yeah, I'm not sure what that. Oh, it's my dart.
Yeah, it's your dart. So
This will help.
unnecessary nade. Look to use it not for healing when people are full HP. When do we also? Oh yeah, we sleep on Reinhardt. But again, this so we die. Also, it's just a little bit on the open because they're on point. Make sure you're looking to back up over here. But besides that, I think honestly, like if we had gotten off an anti-nade, that would have been totally a big swing in the fight, right? That means that they have to play passive. When they have to play passive, that means that our entire team can turn around and look at Reaper, and Reaper doesn't kill us, right? Or we're not over in this instance. We're not over here, but our entire team can turn around and focus Reaper, because if they're not pushing on the main end, then they can put attention to him, right? I think that landing an anti-nade here probably just would have been a big fight swinger.
Awesome.
All right.
And so yeah, that's an instant lose there.
Victory.
All right, so we have like 25 minutes, it looks like, or actually we started recording just like a couple minutes in, so like 20 minutes ish. So we can do like 10 more minutes for the for just reviewing, and then 10 minutes 10 minutes for the replay reviewing, and then 10 minutes for the review portion, where we're reiterating stuff.
So I just
The
had a
wrap
quick
up.
question about. So something I try and do occasionally is I try and watch. Hey, so I try and watch the Overwatch League, and I try and follow the Anas in there, but I noticed that it's kind of like an overall match, and it doesn't really follow the Ana itself. Is there like a replay that you can find on that, or like is there the replay viewer on it, or do they not share those?
So you can look up on YouTube specific point of views, and then you might actually let me open up the BattleNet app. There might be a way. This might actually be only the World Cup, but I don't know. I know that at some point they had a version BattleNet launch where you could. For some reason, my BattleNet's not opening.
Huh, okay, I'm opening mine up.
Let me. Why it's lagging real hard right now. All right, there we go.
Oh no, it's just the skins.
And then I was logged out for some reason, so I had to log back in. So yeah, Overwatch League current. So you might actually be able to. Overwatch League isn't on right now, right? So I think maybe it had to be previous. So there is Overwatch League. Are you going? Sorry, again, my words aren't working correctly right now. Are you on your launcher right now?
I'm gonna open it back up.
All right. If you click game version, it says Overwatch, and then you have public test region, and then it'll say replay viewer, Overwatch World Cup 2019, Overwatch League current, and Overwatch League previous. If you try installing either the current or previous Overwatch League, that might give you the ability to go into replays of Overwatch League matches, but I'm not sure completely on that. If that doesn't end up working, then you can look up specific point of views on YouTube.
Got it. Awesome. Cool. All right. Yeah. In that case, I think. So yeah, we've got about 10, 20 minutes, but okay. So yeah, I think. Maybe we have time for like a quick play match or
Yeah,
something.
we
I'm
can do a
not
quick play.
sure.
No, yeah,
Awesome.
that'd be fine, because we can also. You always have the option to just leave. Oh, I just realized I was recording the whole time, or streaming. Oh, I was restreaming the whole time because I was doing the replay reviewer. I apologize. Oh my goodness, what is up with me right now?
Is that?
I promise, even if my words aren't working, what I was saying still all applies.
Oh, totally. The checklist, the top angle, etc. Ability usage.
All right. So yeah, for this, either you can give me your BattleNet, or I can look at Fiverr and find your Battle.net, or you can just stream it. Which one would you want to do there?
I'll stream it. That probably is easiest.
Alrighty.
If you share my screen, I'll do that. Or no, I can go live.
Share your screen is you just
Overwatch. Here we go.
that's what you're doing.
Okay. Can you see it?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. So I'll just change it so I don't push to talk them as well. All right.
All right, so this should be a good time for questions just while we're in queue here, and then maybe that way we don't have to worry too much. Oh, never mind. Well, we can just save that for the end then, since that was an instantaneous queue.
Oh, nice.
Maybe not. Never mind, I put you back in queue. Do you have any questions about anything that we've gone over? Never mind. We just got a game.
Sweet.
Traveling to Havana. Prepare your defenses. Select your hero.
I have very rarely heard the music for this map because I turned off my music like 2 years ago or 3 years ago or something like that. So
Oh, interesting. All right. So this is probably my least win rate map.
fun.
Yeah.
But now we know where to position on the first point at least.
It's gonna be back near the car.
Yep, or we could try. I'd probably say it'd be a good idea to try up top to start off, and then if our team's positioning in an awkward angle, then we can drop to the car. Yep. At the start here, we could also look for an early nade at the kind of spawn, get us some ult charge to start off. We can do that using the nade tech.
So like there.
Yep.
Or maybe even wait till they're on point. I'm not sure. But
Doing it over there would probably just be decent. You don't need to necessarily wait till they're on point. This is just for ult charge purposes mainly.
honest.
Yeah, probably just instead of trying to predict, just wait till they walk out.
Oh, okay.
Wait till you can see them.
Reaper coming in. Ah, dropped too early. Oh,
Yep.
on the side first.
If we're trying to peek an edge without dropping off a high ground, add in a like crouch so that you can control your movement a bit better.
Got it.
Okay, here, make sure you're not standing on the open.
There we go.
And we can play aggressive because we're up some people, right? So we can just look to push them with a nade or something like that. You can like go to the left or wait till it breaks. Yep.
I actually need to use some more sleep. Oh shit, I'm gonna die.
Okay, there we separated from our team a little bit. Make sure we're trying to stick near them because, if they are backing up while we're pushing in a little bit, then that means that we're out of sync. On top of that, when you're aware that they have a Tracer and a Reaper, you have a little bit more pressure on you. So you might want to save on the sleep a little bit more unless you know that they're not going to be contesting you, right? But we heard Tracer running around in our backline for a really long time there.
Oh, lost a point. Tracer's on us. Oh, never mind. Sometimes I use grenades to try and space the trace.
Feeling sleepy? The pain.
Oh, shoot that nade. That's a better combo. Whenever you're doing anything, when healing or nading, that it kind of animation cancels into each other.
The barrier.
This will help.
Ah,
Hey.
got me.
Make sure you're using sleep there.
Need to save the Mercy. I have an ult.
I've seen. You're going.
Should have used that there.
You look tired.
Ult him. Get him 3 ults.
This is going to hurt.
Oh, I didn't charge.
Nice nade. Just make sure you're looking to hit their feet, right? That way she doesn't block it from hitting Reinhardt. All right, little bit with our positioning, we're sending out in the open a little too much, right? Make sure that we're looking to position next to cover, right? That way we're not out in the open. On top of that, look at your tab real quick. Make sure you're pressing tab in between every fight. Pay attention to ultimates that you have, and then also, you know, be thinking about your priorities right now. Right. Probably be looking to look at priorities at the very beginning of the map, right? But we've also made some swaps. So what would be our 3 priorities right now?
So it's gonna be Winston, Pig, and then Pharah last.
I would probably put Pharah with a barrage as number 1, because Pharah with barrage or without barrage is pretty nuts. Then I would probably go for Nano Whole Hog as number 2, and then Winston as number 3. Nano Winston is very consistent, but it's also not going to be... Sorry, she's on top of you right now. I'm talking. Yeah,
Go
but
ahead.
Winston's very great, but he's also not going to be preferable when you have a ton of ult combos.
You're covered.
Okay, so Winston's dead.
This is not your time.
Alright, so I got another ult.
Just a scratch. You'll be fine.
Our Pharah is very close to.
Here we can just like walk. Yep, great nade. We can also like walk past shield when we're looking for it, but you got 2. Again, like already it's just better because you're actively looking for it.
Ah. Yeah. Okay, so I get that I'm doing more abilities, which is good. My team fight awareness is probably dropping.
Yeah, we're also, you know, our positioning is a little bit worse so far, just because we're focusing a lot on our nades.
Alright, I'm gonna ult the Winston just to get him in. Never mind. Make him feel comfortable.
You know, Farah's
Yeah,
also
I
up top there, right? So we could have potentially gone for her. Go for a little bit faster there. And then, in general, just a lot of positioning out in the open, which resulted in a ton of deaths. Make sure that when Tracer's pressuring you that you're requesting healing, right? Requesting healing lets your other support know when and where you are, or not when, but where you are, right? And it lets them know what character you are so that they can come and find you a lot easier and you can stay alive through the Tracer, right? Because if Mercy's pocketing you and a Tracer's on top of you, probably not going to die too easily. So just make sure requesting healing. You're not trying to do it all on your own, right? Get some team support going. But, you know, in general, we're also just out in the open a lot, and that resulted in a lot of deaths.
Okay, awesome.
So, you know, in general, you're looking for a good, solid mix between what's the word? I'm messing up all this stuff right now. Between production, P word. Between, you know, doing stuff, I'll simplify it. Between doing stuff,
Contributing, yeah.
contributing, right? We have to find the fine line between contributing and safeness, right? And staying alive. When we're playing too safe and we're playing too passive, we do nothing, and therefore, even though we stay alive, we're not impacting. We don't have an impact. We're not carrying. We're not doing enough. And when we're too aggressive and when we are in there all the time, throwing nades, being too aggressive out in the open, that's where we have very low survivability and we end up dying a ton. So we have to find a very fine line between the two. That's where good positioning comes really into play, because when we're looking for nades but we don't have good positioning that pairs well with it, then we end up doing more, but then we also end up dying all the time. So make sure that you're trying to find balance between the two, and you're not prioritizing one over the other per se, because they're both good. Positioning is a necessity when looking for good nades. All right. So let's do a wrap up now. So all the different areas of your kit. First off, just let's do. Sorry, that distracted me because you closed out of that. Let's do the ability usage first. So obviously, very very massive one so far for this coaching session was ability usage. Use them intentionally. Make sure with sleep that you're just using it a little bit more often. When they have some flankers, and dive, you're holding onto it more often for yourself. Nade, make sure you're using it pretty much as often as you can for the aggressive offensive nades. And then if somebody needs it because they're in danger, or you need it because you're in danger, then you use it on yourselves. That's going to happen around like 40% of the time. But the other 60% of the time, you're looking for the aggressive anti-nades, right? Make sure you're throwing them at the feet in between people. You're not throwing them at people. With your sleep and your nade, make sure being intentional and you're looking to get it around shields, get it around abilities such as defense matrix. Make sure you're putting yourselves in good positioning to land them. We'll talk about that in a moment here. So besides that, scope tech for landing long distance nades. We talked about that and how you can look to land it at a bit further of a distance or a medium range. Why don't we move on to positioning, as that kind of pairs really well with the last one, and probably was another massive thing. So far is probably one of the higher up ones on the list is positioning. Make sure that we're keeping in mind the 3 checkboxes of Ana positioning. 1, can I see my team? 2, we honestly did pretty decent with this one. Just keep in mind, can the enemy team see us? We don't want them to be able to see us. 3, can we effectively land nades and sleeps? Okay, that's one of the biggies. That very heavily affects our ability to land anti-nades, as it puts us in good positions to land anti-nades. So make sure you're paying attention to your positioning. Try to check off as many of those boxes as you can. Also, just make sure that you're not running out into the open and you're sticking next to cover and you're staying next to your team, especially when you have people pressuring you. Request team support. If you have a tracer on your backline, don't run off on your own. And try to stick next to your team if at all possible when you have a tracer on top of you. Now moving on to ults. Probably one of the better aspects. We just need to get a lot more consistent with it. Definitely not the number one worst thing we have. Good job not holding on to them, and we've had a decent understanding of what we should be nanoing, but make sure we're focusing on 1, 2, 3 priorities, right? Think of that at the very beginning of the game. Then you want to be on top of that, and then how that works is, remember, you're going to the second one if you can't get the first one, and the third one for the same reason. Targets that require skill shots, not going to be the greatest targets to nano. Okay, make sure when you're using your nano, you're using at the very beginning of fights. That way they get more value, and you're not forced to hold on to them for even longer. Then on to mechanics. It's probably one of the best things that we have going for us right now. We honestly no real problems with it. We hit our shots. Just make sure you're scoping at the appropriate distances. 10 meters is unscoped on squishy targets. 15 meters is unscoped on tanks. Anything past those distances is scoped on something. That way we can hit those shots easier. Besides that, we have pretty great aim. We hit our shots. We don't have an issue with that. And then finally, we have awareness. Make sure we are continuing to pay attention to team fights. That was honestly doing pretty well. We did a good job paying attention to when we were winning or losing, but there were some instances where we slept up and we ended up wasting ultimates or going in aggressively when we shouldn't have, or anything in that category. Just make sure paying attention to, did we win or lose. Make sure as well that you are paying attention to what's up with your team and the enemy team. Pay attention to enemy flankers and team comps. We also talked a little bit more about how we're playing differently according to team comps. So pay attention really carefully to team comps. press tab in between every single fight. That will allow you to be more aware of the ultimates that you have and the team swaps, character swaps that both teams make. That'll up your awareness of characters. And keep in mind, you're gonna be playing differently, with different characters on your team and against different characters on the enemy team. So that's the first thing you're kind of looking for each game is what team comps are we working with, right? Now main points, kind of main things to work on. I'd probably say number one is ability usage. Number two, it goes hand in hand with that, and that is positioning. Number three, between the other three, let's see. Number three, probably would say is going to be ultimate usage. Number four is going to be awareness, and then number five is mechanics. Mechanics doesn't really have much of a problem. Awareness just is needing to get consistent. Awareness and ultimate usage are kind of our medium ones. We're definitely not the best with it, but we're also not the worst with it. So those are the ones that are kind of in the medium range, and then positioning and nade usage are the big ones that we want to make sure we're heavily focusing on. Alrighty.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. Any questions about anything that we've gone over?
No, that all makes perfect sense.
Alrighty. Well, then I'm going to end the recording here.